Hey, welcome to another video and another story. Glad to have you here. Alright, in this video I'm back with more of the Manhwa reincarnation of the Suicidal battle god. Let's get into it. First, a quick recap of the last episode, then we'll jump right into this one. At the end of the last part, I saw Zephyr bought a ton of healing potions to level up his magic. He bought them on credit though, and now he's got a plan to go make money as a monster hunter. Basically, a slave hunter for beasts. Alright, let's dive into this chapter. Monsters were these creatures that came into being through magical transformations. Most of them acted pretty violently toward humans, and over the years, they caused a ton of damage and casualties. But in a way, monsters also helped some people thrive. Since they had valuable magic crystals in their bodies, and you could make some top-notch items from their bones and skin, they became really valuable resources for humans. Actually, some of them lived in dungeons, which were super dangerous to enter. But for people, these dungeons became priceless treasure troves. So in the story, after Zephyr's report, the foreman has to inform the temple, and they send some hunters to inspect the mine. These hunters were slaves too, working off their debts, and had to stay as slaves until they paid it off. But since slave hunters risked their lives fighting monsters, they earned a lot more than miners. Like always, Zephyr heads to the shop to buy more healing potions. But this time, the shopkeeper won't let him buy on credit, saying his debt is sky high. Zephyr thinks, what now? Maybe I should steal. But then, out of nowhere, a temple monk shows up and tells him if he wants more money, he could sell his body parts to the temple, as they're in desperate need of human organs for research, of course. Zephyr gives him a quick look and says, where do I sign? So he actually signs a contract that says he has 1 week to clear his debt, or else he'll owe the temple all his body parts. The shopkeeper's jaw drops, saying, man, you're insane. But Zephyr just shrugs and says, now, hand over every potion you've got. The monk thanks Zephyr for his generosity, and Zephyr downs those healing potions one by one. Each potion he drank boosted his magic power 500 times over, thanks to the god's special affection. After finishing all of them, Zephyr felt more than ready. His magic abilities now seriously powered up. Just then, the hunters showed up and asked, you're the guide for our mission in the mine, right? Zephyr replied, yep, that's me. There were 3 hunters, their commander, Got, and 2 others behind him named Dill and Marco. Zephyr introduced himself and said, nice to meet you. I hope I can be of good help to you. He also added, I don't have night vision like you guys, but I can use mana detection to stay out of your way in the dungeon. Night vision lets you see in the dark, while mana detection is an ability that sharpens your senses by spreading your mana around. To enter any dark dungeon, you need one of these 2 skills. Without them, you'd likely draw way too much attention from monsters, which would be risky and could cause big problems. The hunters handed Zephyr the gear bag and they headed toward the dungeon. Zephyr remembered that, in his past life, only one of these 3 made it out alive from the dungeon. So, 2 of them were basically doomed. He could change their fate by stepping in, but he didn't have any reason to help them. Though he did have a few plans brewing in his mind that he wanted to pull off. They finally reached the mountain area and arrived at the mine's entrance, which had now become a dungeon. Near the entrance were 3 more people, and one of them stepped forward saying, we're the support team. Then he says, hands out. He puts a bracelet on each person's wrist and explains that these bracelets have magic threads in them. If anything happens to you, the bracelets I'm holding will snap. But if all of the bracelets break, we'll call in top-tier hunter reinforcements immediately to help you out. Basically, these 3 were only here to scout out the mine and report the monsters, not to clear the dungeon. Following Zephyr's lead, they head inside. A pair of kobold monsters were patrolling the mine tunnels when suddenly a rock hit the wall right in front of them. The kobolds were confused, wondering who could have thrown it. Just then, the hunters sneaked up from behind and drove swords straight into the kobolds' heads, killing them instantly. Usually, when monsters show up in a mine, a scouting team of adventurers is sent in first to investigate and report back, so a specialized team can later come and take care of it. But if the scouting team thinks they're strong enough to handle it, they can go ahead and clear the dungeon themselves and take home the extra rewards. They realized there weren't as many kobolds as they'd expected, so the commander suggested, let's clear this dungeon ourselves without calling for backup. The other 2 were shocked and weren't too thrilled to risk their necks. Dill objected, saying, we're only 3 people. We can't handle all these kobolds, even if there aren't that many. The commander replied, we're not just 3, we're 4. But Dill didn't even see Zephyr as a person, more like a piece of trash. Still, the commander had a plan to give them a better chance against the kobolds and clear the dungeon. The commander tells Zephyr, "Bring it out." Zephyr pulls out a branch with hazel leaves and nuts, then starts crushing the leaves and mixes them with the kobold corpses. Following this plan, a thick scent from the female kobold is released, which attracts every male kobold within 100 meters. As the kobolds, driven wild by the scent, come rushing over, they fall straight into traps set in advance. The commander was putting on airs, and the rest of the team was genuinely impressed by his genius plan, even though the whole strategy was Zephyr's idea. Zephyr had given the commander all the steps beforehand so they could easily clear out the dungeon. From his previous life, Zephyr knew Commander Goad loved admiration, so he used that to implement his own plans. Commander Goad, now a little impressed by Zephyr, handed him a dagger and said, "Take care of yourself." Goad thought Zephyr was helping him with the hope of getting a recommendation to join the Hunter's ranks, but Goad had no intention of helping him in return. They continued using Zephyr's strategies, though the commander took all the credit, and managed to clear out all the kobolds. Their work done, they were just about to leave and report their success when Dill noticed something strange. He found a kobold skeleton that was spotless, almost as if it had been cleaned with acid. But then, out of nowhere, a terrifyingly strong hand reached out, grabbed Dill, and threw him against the wall. Dill hit hard and looked like he couldn't move, possibly dead. The commander was horrified, and the other team member, Marco, quickly activated his special skill, calling out, "Everyone behind me!" Marco deployed a powerful mana shield, strong enough to withstand even attacks from an orc commander. But that strange creature, with just one swing of its tail, not only shattered Marco's mana shield, but seemed to have killed him too. Now only the commander remained, facing this terrifying monster. The creature's tail suddenly lunged at him at full speed. At the entrance of the dungeon, one of the backup team members realized that all the bracelets had snapped. This meant something terrible had happened to the scouting team. Inside, blood was splattered all over the floor. Commander Goad was severely injured, but in front of him, he saw Zephyr shielding him. Zephyr had activated his Iron Wall skill, one of the abilities granted by the gods when he returned from the future. Despite using Iron Wall, though, Zephyr was still hurt. He thought to himself, "This creature isn't even a year old, and it's already this strong?" When the dust settled, Zephyr realized he was facing a fierce, eight-eyed beast, one that was terrifying beyond belief. All right, everyone, that wraps up this chapter. Thank you for sticking with me till the end. I really appreciate you watching, and I'd love to know how much you're enjoying this manhwa on a scale of 1 to 10 in the comments. Thanks, and take care.